Leader is heading now.
So I'm trying not to smash it down. I hit it right, so I brake trace right. Shit, that's better than what I was doing.
For him, they could
I learned my lesson from last time. Don't go in front of them. Little fucking mistakes are really getting me. Jump to this guy's. Oh, nice pass, Jacob. Fuck. Nope, I pushed too much there. Looks like shit. I can't get this brake pressure down the car. So frustrated because it's like
3, 4, and you can like a walk out. The lead is going on. Got a low car. It's a low car.
Running earlier. Yesterday was. I will tell you, it seems like the last 10 minutes, it gets really, really aggressive. Like people start doing a lot of stupid shit in this room. Just a lot of whipping the car back and forth. Like, see what he's doing right there? Just kind of like that stuff. And I know. That was bad. Should not really trail braking right.
Pit exit's clear. Disengage limiter.
Good job, bud.
P2.
You're out there.
You're currently 0.36 off the pace. You're outside of track limits there. Left front 96%, left rear 96. Track's clear, push push push. You've got cold tyres, we need to get some heat into them.
Hello.
Hey, right.
Let me make sure my volume is good for this.
No worries. I'll keep talking and let you
Yeah.
get a gauge of the audio level. It's always hard to match iRacing to Discord.
I know.
And obviously, you want to be able to hear both. How's it going anyway? It's Jay, right?
Also,
Nice to meet you.
how do you
gone.
pronounce your last name?
You're a friend of Gabe's, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's Noakes. Just
Noakes?
Noakes.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
no ski coaching?
Yeah,
Or-
Noakesy is just it was my nickname in school, so that's what I came up with.
Got it.
Yeah. Talk to me. How's the driving going?
It's going okay. So right now I'm at 3,300 I rating. At this track, my pace is probably a little bit higher than that. I've had really bad luck in terms of crashes and stuff at the course, though. But I feel like I'm. So objectively, I'm like a second off the pace of the top guys, but that's like
Sure.
there have been like 10K guys a lot of these sessions, but I'm probably like the second off where I want to be in like quality.
Yeah.
I'm probably like 2 to 4 tenths off where I want to be on average. So in races, I'm probably doing like 50.4s or so, 50.2. You know, the really fast guys are in the 49s. The guys slightly above my I rating are kind of near like 50 flat or a little bit above. The fastest I've gotten is like a 49.9.
I was looking at your telemetry from Quali just before we jumped on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
49.
I just had a really interesting thing happen, which was I sharing this also. I was just practicing and decided to kind of try holding my brakes a little bit higher in the trail braking phase. And I started gaining tons of time. Like my optimal, I kind of messed up part of the lap, and my optimal was a 49.77.
Nice.
So that probably could have even been a little bit more. So
that's probably a good question. Is where do you feel like you're struggling? Do you have a sense of what you think you need to improve to get that extra few tenths like you're talking about?
Yes and no. So the trail, there's a few things that I've had a few coaching sessions. I've done like Soelio, I did James Bolduin at one point. One of my big problems a long time ago was kind of the efficiency of my braking zone. So I would tend to kind of like spike up, and then it would kind of start dipping after that. So
Sure.
I've worked a lot on getting like a flatter brake trace. One thing I still struggle with it a little bit, but it's gotten a lot better. One other thing I struggle with a lot, I think, is spiking the brake pressure too quickly to kind of overload the tires. Like sometimes I've noticed that if I'm a little smoother on the brakes, it helps in the rest of the braking phase. And then I think my trail braking is like decent, but it's not great. Like I said, in this session alone, like I kind of decided to hold the pressure a little bit higher. I was getting better rotation. The lap times went down. So that's what I would say, like something that on my own I was able to just kind of do and probably know and I'm continually working on. But a big weakness of mine is hairpins and slow corners. Like in Hockenheim, the hairpin was killing me. And here, the second hairpin I'm struggling with. The first one is okay. And then I've been looking at Garage 61 a bit, and the compound corner, that's like the left right-hander. I don't know why, but I'm really struggling with my minimum speeds there. Like on Garage 61, people are holding it way higher, and I've tried like a bunch of different things, and I can't.
Sure.
It just, every time I'll feel like I'll try something different, I'll look at the data and it'll look exactly the same. So
no worries. All right, what I'll get used to, it's really good that you've got like a sense or like a good summary of where you're at and what you feel like is potentially the struggle. What I'll get you to now is run a few laps. Don't worry if they're not like right up to your best, just a representation of where you're driving right now. And
Front right,
we'll kind of go from there. Obviously, you're already driving to a high level, so the change we're going to make are probably going to be smaller, and the impact is going to be smaller. But we'll still see what we can do, and I think we can hopefully make a little bit of improvement.
Okay.
So, yeah, go for it. I'll let you talk. Yeah, go on. Yeah, go
I
on.
was just gonna say the other thing that I struggle with a lot too is knowing when to brake later and harder versus earlier and softer, especially with the way the like iRacing tire model works. I really, really, really struggle with it, especially here. Like here, there's some corners where I've noticed if you brake really light, like the first hairpin before the true hairpin, it's like not a full 180, but that tight left-hander. If I brake like 60% there, it seems to be really good. And then the next hairpin wants more like 80%. And like I don't really know how to
What the difference
judge
is.
that a lot of the time. Like I can figure it out some corners sometimes, but yeah.
Your exit's clear.
Okay,
Watch the white line.
I'll
P3.
talk to the iRacing tyre model thing in a little bit, but for now, let's run some laps. I'll be mostly quiet and let you focus on the driving.
Okay.
The only question I'll ask you, I'm guessing like hardware-wise, you've got a direct drive wheel and low cell pedals?
Yeah, I've got Simicube wheel, the Pro 2, Simicube active pedal, and then VNM throttle with a damper on it.
One. Perfect. All right, yeah. I mean, I figured from the way you're driving you would have so, but I still like to double check because I'd obviously tailor it differently if you were on lower end gear. But you're yeah. I'll be quiet. I'll let you focus on the driving for a couple laps, and we'll go from there.
Okay. The Simicube active pedal actually helps me a lot too with lining up my brake trace because I kind of like change the settings to enable myself to get a flatter brake trace.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I added some friction and damping, which really helped a lot. I lose a lot of time in this corner too.
Okay, Jay, we need to watch these track limits.
Okay, we'll say one more lap. Sorry, this isn't even this track. I always get caught out on this track where you have the like the grid boxes or something on the wrong part of the track. So we'll do this lap and then we'll do one more lap. I actually haven't ever embraced this circuit, so I bought it for a coaching session a little bit before Gabe's one today, like a couple of days ago. So it's I'm learning the circuit, but I haven't driven it at all, which is interesting. But it means I'm still trying to remember where all the corners are.
Track limits. This lap will be deleted.
And if you can just do turn 1 and 2 again for me one time as well,
Yep.
one more time. Okay, cool. Park up there.
I'm gonna try to get 2 correctly first.
Go for it, go for it. No worries. If you want to finish this lap as well, you're welcome to. No worries.
Nope.
The gravel's there as well. So
yeah, if you haven't, this track is like weird in the sense that there's all these acceleration zones where like the
you're
apex is
pointing
like
away from, yeah.
yeah, like you get there's kind of like these almost double apexes, and you get on the gas on like the first apex because the corner like opens up. Like turn 1, 2, and 3, 4 are kind of both like that.
Similar and weird, yeah.
It's so hard because like you're right at the limit on exit, and if you don't get the right rotation on entry, then you won't have the rotation on exit when you get on full throttle. You either have to like wait or it pushes. So I struggle with that on and off. Like that's a consistency thing, but like I think I got turn 1 and 2 that time. I did on the previous laps. That time I went too hard in 3 and 4. But...
Same question. Having just run those laps, what do you feel like is the main struggle for you? Don't worry if you're not sure. That's what I'm here for.
Still, let's see, turns 7, 8. I don't know if it's line or what it is. Turn 12, 13, 14 complex. Harley, go way down. 12, 13, 14 complex. Like, I don't know if I'm turning in too late on the second part and it's causing understeer. I don't know if I'm not cutting the corner well enough, but like when I look at the data, it's just my minimum corner speed is like so much lower, but I don't feel like I can go faster.
So
and
driving on the limit, there's no
10.
there's no doubt about that. So it's not a case of
My limit
pushing anymore. Yeah. Well, no, but you're driving on the limit of the car with what you're doing with the car right now. So anything we do has got to be about changing the technique slightly to increase the limit of what the car is capable of handling, because you're driving obviously really nicely.
Yeah, 49.6 optimal is the lowest that's ever been.
Yes, yeah. You found time even before we started talking about anything. So what I want to do is ask you a couple of questions to do with how you go about approaching the trial braking and how you go about approaching the rotation.
Okay.
So at the moment, how do you go about finding the rotation? Is the first question. How do you go about finding rotation through the corner? What do you do to get that rotation?
I think that I think I do it a little bit too much with steering. I try to do it with the brakes, but I think I rely on steering a little too much. I'm feeling the rotation on entry. One hard thing I think with my consistency, especially on this track, is I think sometimes when I get the rotation well in the braking phase, I don't know if it's overheating the rears or if I have too much steering lock or something, but then on the acceleration phase, I'm getting a lot of oversteer and it's cutting into the traction control. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to feel it with the brakes through entry. I don't know if that's kind of what you're getting at with that question.
I was trying to get at what are you rotating the car more with the brakes or more with the steering? I think in general you actually use the brakes a little bit more than the steering, or a little bit too much.
Mhm.
I'll share my screen and show you exactly what I mean.
I have noticed that on a lot of times with hairpins too. When I look at the data, I'm not cranking the steering on enough.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not going to spend too long talking about the theory side because you obviously know the theory.
Mhm.
But obviously when we're trying to get the can you see my screen first
Yep.
off?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
So when we're trying to get the rotation from the trial braking, the goal is pretty much to bring the front. So because we're trial braking, we're shifting weight over the front tires.
Yeah.
That gives us more front grip than we've got rear grip. That means we've got an oversteery balanced car, oversteery biased car rather. And so if we push the front tires close enough to the limit, then the tires that are going to give up first are the rears. That's where we get the little slide, the oversteer, the slip angle, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And that's obviously what we want in the trial braking. And you're spot on that you've got like two ways to find that rotation. You can ask for more from the brakes and you can ask for more from the steering. Anything that brings the front tires closer to the limit of grip will help to corner the car more, which will push the rears closer to their limit and get them to slip out. To me, I think you use a little bit too much braking and not quite enough steering. Let me explain this with some laps. So I've just pulled your fastest quality lap versus the fastest quality lap on Garage 61 for fixed setup. And so the thing that I see in your brake trace and the combination of brake and steering is that as you go through so you're a little bit hesitant to carry the brake as deep as you can on like the early part of the entry, and that's probably what you noticed in these last few laps is you can actually carry a little bit more brake for a little bit longer. But then once you get through to like the mid part of the entry, for lack of a better term, you're using more braking and less steering angle, and you're still finding rotation in this way. It's just that the level of the limit of grip, I think, will be a little bit higher if you find the rotation more with the steering than the brake pedal.
Okay.
That tracks with the fact that this guy is able to keep like a higher minimum speed, get on throttle earlier than you. He's just managed to get more rotation done earlier by having the approach of getting a little bit more steering and a little less.
Oh, so braking. We're reaching the same peak, but he's doing it earlier in the corner to.
Yes, exactly. So you apex probably a little bit too early, maybe as a consequence of not quite getting the amount of rotation you want. Maybe it's a little bit of line, but I think more so it's just that there will be more. Maybe you got the line a little bit wrong into this corner. I wouldn't read.
Yeah, it's hard to because there's nothing there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's in the middle of the corner.
So I don't think it's like line related. Maybe you just got it a little bit wrong that time around.
Yeah.
But in most corners, this is a consistent thing. So this corner you definitely messed up in terms of like you probably didn't want to be on the brake.
That's always what it looks like.
This late.
Every time.
Interesting.
It's literally it's always that much lower.
And you see again, it's more braking, less steering. You see, and you're really trying to find that rotation on the brake pedal in this part of the corner.
Yeah.
Because you're not pushing the steering enough.
Interesting.
It's not every corner, but this one again, like it very, very marginal changes, and like you're still going to find the rotation, of course, because the little bit of steering that you're not asking for, you're asking for on the brake pedal.
Yeah.
So you're still getting rotation. It's just so have you driven like the MX-5 or the Formula Ford or those kind of cars in anger, Iracing? Not in a long time.
Yeah.
Were you anywhere near the level you are now when you were driving those cars previously?
I've done a little bit of league stuff in it, so yeah, maybe.
So if you think back to those cars, how would you say you rotate those cars, either the MX-5 or the Formula Ford?
I rotate those a lot with the brake, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So there's some cars that really like to be rotated more on the brakes, and there's some cars that really like to be rotated more on the on the steering. And there's kind of two extremes to how we can find the rotation. We can find the rotation pretty much exclusively with the brake pedal and doing, if you've seen Swilio stuff like neutral steer, where you're rotating the car on the brake pedal fully and you're not steering at all through the corner. That's one extreme, and then rotating the car fully on the steering is another extreme. Obviously, it's very hard to actually get rotation from the car when you're not trial braking. But if you imagine like an especially oversteery setup, right, you could rotate the car just through the steering.
I think it always feels though like I'm going to understeer with that. Is part of that the fact that I'm too much on the brake still and it's overloading the fronts?
Yes, yeah. So a natural consequence of trying to rotate more on the steering is that to allow yourself that extra grip, you're going to have to drop the brake a little bit more. Because like I say, you're completely on the limit here. It's not like the front tires have any more to give because you're rotating the car really nicely. So that shows you're on the limit. It's just that how you arrive at that limit is like a sliding scale. On one extreme, you've got rotating the car fully on the brakes. On the other extreme, you've got rotating or turning the car fully on the steering.
Yeah.
And everywhere in between is somewhere that you can be. And it's for each car, it's a question of, okay, where on this scale do we want to be to have like the overall maximum grip? And I think in most corners on this circuit, you're just a little bit too far in the direction of brake, too much on the brakes, not quite enough on the steering. This corner, interestingly, you're kind of the opposite, but we'll touch on the hairpins separately, I think. Same again into this corner, right? You see more in obviously the braking. Obviously, I think your braking actually looks better, right? You're able to brake higher, brake much later, drop the speed more quickly. I don't think it's overheating the tires because you're not activating the ABS.
Sorry,
I know
where this is.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, it's yeah.
I just got a little lost for a second. Yeah.
Little tangent on the whole iRacing tire model, how to understand if it's overheating. The best recommendation I can give you is buy, if you don't already own, the Lamborghini GT3.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to like quali mode 2 on the dashboard, like the in-car dashboard, it gives you live surface tire temperatures, which is different from every other GT3 that is in iRacing. Every other GT3, as far as I'm aware, has core temperatures. Excuse me. So, but the Lambo having surface temperatures is brilliant because you can see exactly what spikes the tires and what doesn't. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different between the different GT3s, but it will give you a really good like general understanding of the iRacing tire model and what it likes, what it doesn't like, and what you can get away with.
I feel like
every time
especially the second you spike the tires too, you lose all grip in the Lambo.
Yes, yeah. In all GT3s, if you spike the tire temperatures, it kills you for the rest of the corner. But to have that live feedback on what actually spikes the tires is really useful.
Yeah.
And generally anything over 90 degrees, and this is subjective, so don't take my word exactly on it, but for me, anything over 90 degrees feels like you're starting to lose a little bit of performance. If you ever get the tires over 100, you've really overcooked it, and you're very noticeably going to lose grip. So for me, a big thing in trying to learn the tire model was having that, and then seeing, oh, actually, there's some things that I thought I was doing that were killing the tires, and actually they were completely fine.
Right, like there's a lot of times where I get in the brakes and I feel like it's killing the tires, but
maybe
I look at other people, they're braking harder than me, and that braking's over something.
Exactly.
Also,
so
along those lines with this trace here, this is kind of what I was talking about, which is like a crux of my problems a lot of time, where I spike up to 80 and then I immediately drop down to in the 70s or something.
Yes.
Or
yeah.
I spike to 90 and then I go down to the 80s. Does that hurt ignore the macro kind of trailing that's happened there, because that's a separate thing I don't need to work on. But the fact that there's that little bump to 90 and then it goes back down, does that affect
I don't think that will hurt the tires, or at least not massively. I don't think this is too much the problem. Okay. You're right that the bigger problem is the overall trailing off.
Yeah. That's why I always have input telemetry on, because I always need to look at it and remind myself
the messing around you've done with the active pedal to try and help fix this, I think is very cool that the active pedal can do this, but I don't think it's necessary. When other people have told you that this is a problem that you have, how have they suggested you fix it, or what have they said about on the
active reset, and then also imagining that you're pushing the pedal in harder
as
time goes on.
So because I don't know how exactly it works on the active pedal, but I assume it'd be similar. Have you heard of load cell hysteresis?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that happens on here. I think it's more the difference of pushing your leg to move something versus the force it requires to hold your leg in a place. Like I think there's something weird that happens there where you have to trick your brain into pushing harder.
You have to press a little bit harder just to maintain pressure.
Yeah, that's the thing I can. That's like a known thing I always have to work on. So I'm aware of that one. It's just like that's a kind of a constant improvement thing.
Yeah, and that's just gonna help with a little obviously of consistency in the braking zone, and also overall braking potential. Because I mean, probably you wouldn't want to be braking up to 96%, but let's say you did, any trailing off you do in between when you spike up and when you turn into the corner, that's just like a little bit of braking performance left on the table, right? Any difference in the graph between the straight line and where yours is a little bit of performance on the table.
That's that last right hander too. There's something really weird about that corner. I think because it's downhill.
This one here. Oh no,
the one we're just looking at. I think because there's weirdly a lot of grip, but because it's downhill, also like you'll actually will slow down a lot faster if you don't brake as hard. So I don't know if it's slipping the tires. Like it doesn't. I'm not engaging the ABS before that, right?
Yeah, not before the trail braking. You're not. No.
Yeah, but it weirdly like it feels like it'll slow down faster if you actually brake a little bit lighter. So I don't. That right-hander and the right-hander earlier in the lap also are very weird corners. I don't know if the other one is off camber or something. It's earlier than that.
Oh, the
up there, that one is like I don't know if it's weirdly off camber or something, but there's like no grip. You have to trail brake super hard into it, and you have to turn in really early to make the corner. It looks the same as the other one, and it feels the same, but it's like a completely different corner. So kind of throws me off. And
I would say
let's there too.
Yeah, the straight line braking bit you know about, so I don't think we should spend time working on that. And you're at a level where you can absolutely work on that yourself. I wouldn't say it's costing you a huge amount. We can overlap like a few of your laps in a little bit and see whether you're consistent with the amount you trailed off. If you're consistent, that's the main thing. I think you obviously want to minimize the trailing off in the straight line braking zone, but if you're doing that lap after lap consistently and it's not affecting your entry speed or not making your entry speed inconsistent, then it's not.
I'm not, and I know I'm not, because sometimes I make the corner and sometimes I don't, and whenever I don't make the corner, I know it's because I trailed off.
Yes. Yeah. So definitely that's something to work on, but I think the bigger thing, and hopefully the thing that I'm going to be more useful for to tell you when you've done it right and wrong, is this approach of there's going to be kind of two changes here. It's going to be carrying the brake a little bit more on that initial entry, but using less brake and using more steering to rotate the car from. Let's do one thing at a time, right? Let's start off with just rotating the car a little bit more on the steering and a little bit less on the brakes. So you find the limit and you start finding that rotation however you normally do. But then as you're progressing through the corner, in order to keep the car on the limit and keep the car rotating, just let yourself decrease the brake pressure a little bit more, and because you've then got that grip to play with by decreasing the brake pressure a little bit more, you return to that limit with the steering. It may mean you're going to have to shift your braking points ever so slightly earlier, because then now you're going to be carrying less brake through the corner. But let's start off with just the same reference points and see how that goes and see how that feels.
This is going to be hard.
Yes,
I'm try my best. I mean,
anything trail braking related is difficult. Yeah. It's not never an easy change when it's trail braking related, and you're already driving at a high level. So
looks like you're clear on the pit exit.
Small adjustment.
P4.
But we can even take it to a little bit of an extreme so far. So way less braking than you think and way more steering than you think. Almost going too far in the opposite direction just to get a sense of where you want to be.
Well, it's almost like I need to think of my point of ultimate release of the brake to be like further ahead. Because where I'm kind of trailing like all the way to the apex like that.
I think you can still trail all the way to the apex.
I kind of want to be like...
I think it's... No, I think you still want to trail all the way to the point when you're getting back on throttle, just with overall less brake input and overall more steering.
Okay. I always forget how bad the brake warm-up is on this car.
Yeah.
I also have such a strong inclination to always be on some pedal.
Mm.
And I think that's why I often have that like 10 to 5% on the end there, because I've trailed off so early and there's still more corner left that I'm just like
Yes. Yeah.
on the brake a little bit more.
Mm.
But if you look at my screen, you can see my inputs, which might help
Yes, I've
you.
got you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at your.
Oh,
You're
I
sharing
understand.
Iracing, so I got a little confused. That's okay. Though.
Yeah, sorry. And you were probably getting the sound from that as well, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bad habit of mine, and it's always very confusing when you can hear two of your own engine. Good. A little bit more on the steering, a little bit less on the brakes.
I can't even tell if I did it or not.
It's going to be
so
such
hard.
a subtle change.
Yeah.
It looked pretty good, but do you run the force feedback on your steering pretty high or not?
Relatively.
Hmm.
Actually, sorry.
No worries.
Thinking about force feedback, and I missed my braking zone.
If you had to
Mind these track
ballpark
limits,
how many
please, Jay.
I'm at 63 newton meters on this car, and I run it at 100% on the wheels at 25 newton meters. Or you can see the slider on the top left also.
Yeah, I can see the slider. Yeah, and it's so you're about half. So you're probably like 10 to 12, 13 newton meters, something. Like
Yeah, probably something like
that.
that. Kind of trying to exaggerate the steering now too.
Mm. Did you feel rotation through that corner?
No, not on the brakes because I think I came off too early. But then I kind of felt it with the steering afterwards.
Mm. So the key is you're going to have to push the steering. Like I do think previously you were leaning more heavily on the brakes to find the rotation, maybe than you thought you were.
Yeah.
Or in terms of the way you found the rotation was modulating your brake input, and increasing the brake pressure if you weren't rotating enough.
Yeah.
But in the same way, you can find that rotation by increasing the steering angle, as long as you've got enough brake input to get rotation.
I think I felt it there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to came off the brakes a little bit more and turn in more.
Good. Good. Good.
I lost the rotation there though.
Track limits.
That's one of those
This lap will be
corners where you
deleted.
need to be rotating when you get on throttle, otherwise you're not going to make it. That one too, actually. This is where it's been the biggest problem, right?
Hmm. That was good. There was a point on entry where you found the rotation with the steering. You then lost it, I think, but there was a point where you had it.
Maybe I came off the brakes too much.
While not increasing the steering enough. Good again, there was a point where you had it. Same again, really focus on getting the rotation of the steering. Good.
Okay, Jay, we need to watch these track limits.
Without stopping you, I'll get you to keep driving. Try to be really smooth with the steering, so don't ever have like a stab through the corner.
Okay.
Just progressively increasing the steering until you find that rotation. Good. There you go. Every time you have a stab like that, you get like a momentary stab of rotation rather than smooth rotation. Really good again. Smooth rotation again, you see? Really good. Good. Same again. Smooth steering and pushing the car more with the steering than the brakes. Good. How's that feeling, the slightly smoother steering?
Yeah, it's feeling
Still gonna take
better.
some getting used to.
Yeah.
Much better steering. There was some stabs there. Better through the right hander. That was good, but it was too much on the brakes. That was back to your instinct. Whether you felt it or not, I'm not sure. Good. I think that first left-hander, I think you just sometimes apex it a little bit early.
I changed it a little bit.
Okay, okay. Good smooth steering.
That one felt like it wasn't turning though. Like
You weren't getting the
intentionally tried to
rotation?
come off the brakes, and yeah, the steering wasn't doing it.
We'll do a couple more laps on this, and then we'll park up and we'll I'll throw something else in. In these laps, think about smoothly and progressively increasing the steering, and how you come off the brake is just when you get the rotation, it's to allow you to keep.
You're now
increasing the steering.
1.5 off the pace.
So progressively increasing the steering and using the brake pedal to give yourself the grip. Give yourself the front tyres to be able to do it. Good.
Don't invalidate this lap. Track limits. P4.
Good. Here you don't quite get it right, don't quite find the rotation.
It also feels like I overslowed. Like the car didn't have enough momentum to rotate. Even like I was trying to hold more brakes to rotate, but it just overslowed the car.
Yeah. Let's do one more lap, and then we'll park up and discuss. Smooth steering, of course. More on the steering. Try to have no stabs on the steering. You can
Watch the
only
track limits,
smoothly
please, Jay.
increase. Good. That's the way. Just focus on that for these few corners. Just smooth on the steering, nothing else. Good. Good.
Okay, so I think what I've noticed is when you say no stabs on steering.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt it a lot more there. I've also never kind of thought of steering first and then using the brakes to get that rotation. I think I've always thought of it as like one thing, so kind of thinking of it together helped. But I think I fished for grip a lot on entry.
Yes.
So like,
and I think you specifically fished to try and for grip and to find rotation as well.
yeah.
Sometimes
So like every time you said no stabs, like I wasn't thinking I was stabbing because like
yes,
in my head I wasn't. I was just kind of like I was smoothly
Fishing
steering
for
in,
grip.
but doing it with like a little like I try, it's not quite there. I steer out a little bit. I try again.
So if you jump to Discord and you can see my screen maybe, yeah.
Yes.
So the red is the faster time and the blue is you.
Yeah.
And you can see that although you're smooth generally on the steering, you've got all of these little stabs, little stab there, little stab here, little stab there. And so if you're not getting the rotation, those stabs aren't necessarily going to help you get the rotation.
Yeah.
If you are getting rotation, then those little stabs are going to like give you a snap more rotation or take the rotation away, and you're not then going to get that progressive rotation. You're going to rotate like smoothly up to, to use Swelio's terminology, the maximum rotation point.
And I'm fighting with the brakes too because I'm using both. I'm like fishing for grip with both. Almost.
Yes,
like
both of them. Yeah. So what I want to do is give you a tool to find the rotation on entry.
Okay.
And then hopefully allow you to be smooth on the steering while trailing off the brake enough to give you the grip to turn in.
Okay.
So if I ask you, let's take turn one, good example, but this will work. So in all corners where you have a traditional straight line braking zone, this is going to work. If I ask you, how do you approach finding the rotation into any corner of a traditional braking zone, how would you say you approach finding that rotation?
After talking, I think what I do is I try to have a sort almost constant brake input, or I'm more thinking being smooth on the brakes, and then I'm fishing with the steering, trying to like induce the rotation. If it's not there, I steer out, or I'm kind of maybe a little bit too jerky, and I'm getting a little bit of that like oversteer on entry, and I'm having to correct forward and stuff.
Yeah. So you're like trying to keep the braking constant and then like fish for it on the steering.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I want to tell you what to do, but tell you to do, but slightly differently. So when you're braking in a straight line, in theory, we're braking on the limit of grip.
Right.
Let's say ABS activates at 80% in this car. I don't know what it activates at, but let's say it's 80%. Then your goal is to try and brake to that 80%. But naturally, to try and avoid over braking or locking in the ABS, or in cars that don't have ABS locking up, you're always going to leave like 1 or 2% performance on the table. So you've always got like 1 or 2% more front grip available to you.
Right.
And what that means is when you start turning into the corner, you don't actually have to drop the brake straight away. You can do that really small, tiny amount of steering first before dropping the brake, and use that to find the rotation. So you're going to be able to get away with maybe like 3 or 4 degrees, maybe 10 degrees, whatever, of steering angle before you're actually overworking the fronts. And in that time, you're going to find the rotation, and then your goal is to maintain that rotation and like increase that amount progressively through the corner.
That makes sense. That's definitely not what we do.
Trailing off the brake as much as you need to allow yourself to keep increasing the steering. So let's do this. So in all straight line braking zones, you're not allowed to start trailing off the brake until you've started steering into the corner enough that you start to find the rotation. Once you find the rotation, you can do what you want. Obviously, we're still thinking about the smooth steering, but let's think more now about the finding the rotation on entry.
Okay.
Front left, 94%. Left rear, 94. Your pit exit looks clear. 6th place.
The key with this is the initial steering input needs to be really
Smooth.
small, really slow, really smooth, yes. Because if you do it too quickly, you're going to go past the point of the front tyres gripping, and you're going to very quickly get too much. You ask for too much from the front tyres, and you're, instead of finding rotation, you're just going to find understeer.
Right.
So into this one, don't drop the brake pressure until you start turning into the corner. Until you find the rotation, rather. Good. Obviously, you carried too much brake, but this in itself will show you situations where you can... Yeah. But it will show you situations where you can carry more brake for longer, because this is almost going to go to the fixing the other point that we saw, which is that you, on the initial part of the corner, you're dropping the brake more than you need to.
Right.
And then later on in the corner, you're carrying more brake than you need to. So by forcing you to kind of keep good brake pressure when you start the turn in, that's going to highlight areas where you were dropping the brake too much. Is the rotation a little bit?
Yeah.
It's going to take some time. It's not going to be something that we're going to fix in the last 10 minutes.
Of course not.
But you can hopefully you'll see the potential.
Yeah.
Same again. Maintain that brake pressure until you feel the rotation. Even that was too quick on the steering.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You almost want to start the steering slightly earlier so that you can be slower on it. Turn 1 and turn 3 are going to be the best corners to try and see. Because they're quite long, sweeping, so it allows you to do that slow, smooth steering initially. So maintain the brake pressure.
P7.
Then again, really maintain that brake pressure, don't let it drop at all. And really slow and smooth on the steering. Just try and find that rotation early. Just over slowing a little bit there.
I think as I'm holding more brakes now, it's like
yes,
I'm pushing my braking zone back maybe like a couple meters. It's not too far because just because everything's kind of wonky. But yeah, holding the brakes longer is definitely causing me to slow more into the corner.
Yes, yeah. Which just highlights that you can push the braking points further. There's that rotation.
Yeah.
Try to make it so there isn't
I thought I did it that time.
Make it so there isn't one single point where you turn into the corner. Try and hide where you turn in from me. That's the smoothness I want. That's better. That's better. You didn't quite find the rotation, but that slow, smooth steering on entry was way better.
Yeah.
Same again. Really slow, smooth. Hide the fact that you're turning. There you go. Even that was a little bit too stabby, which shows you just how smooth it needs to be.
So when I first started sim racing, I did a lot of like Formula One stuff, and I think I got a lot of bad habits with how well the steering responds and everything.
You're now 1.6. What's the pace?
A little bit less steering than you could have gone for. It was a little bit too much on the brakes, but the smoothness was good. Yeah, Formula is even Formula and iRacing is a completely different beast.
Yeah.
You can get away with not being so buttery smooth. Yeah, good, really good. Really
I've learned over time, this is especially true with the GTPs also, that I tend to always turn in too late and too abruptly.
Yes. Same again here. A little bit too late, a little bit too abruptly.
Really?
So no, the steering was actually really nice and smooth.
Okay.
It's just the line was a little bit late.
Got it.
Yeah, this was good. In terms of smoothness, obviously a little bit too early apex, but yes, good.
Yeah, the progressiveness of my steering has always been a problem. It's almost a much more linear steering.
Yes. If I ask you what kind of shape are you aiming for the racing line, like a constant radius arc?
Yeah, it's too much of a constant radius.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
That was it. That was good.
And I think the reason why is because in my head I'm needing
to watch these track limits.
Let me just talk real quick. In my head, I'm needing to come off the brakes more, so it's like I'm too much on the brakes to start steering in.
But you're not.
Right?
I mean,
the stuff you're explaining is obviously making it clear to me, but I think that's why I tend to turn in later and sharper. Like I come
because it
off
allows
the
you
brakes
to
harder.
hold the brake.
Yeah,
it allows you to hold the brake for longer when that's what you want to do to get the right braking point and all of that. Yeah. So hopefully, if nothing else, this approach will highlight the fact that good rotation on entry. Will highlight that you can get away with more brake than you think you can on that initial input.
Yes.
As long as you're taking like the exponential steering and smooth steering, and then along with that sliding scale of how to get rotation, brakes versus steering. Really good rotation.
I tried to push the braking zone deeper there.
And you could have, because you didn't even quite get the rotation there, so you got away definitely with pushing the braking zone deeper. I do think that first left-hander there is just a little bit of a later apex.
Alright, Jay, we need to watch the track limits.
Good. Let's push the braking zone 5 meters deeper here. Really hold that peak pressure until you get the rotation. There you go.
Sounds like Trophy AI when you said that. I think a big problem with that corner then is I'm turning in too late and too sharply on the second part. Potentially.
Of the
that last corner.
Yeah. Potentially.
Got the rotation that time.
Yeah, good rotation. Good rotation again. Again, yeah, just a little bit late on the
I,
turn.
yeah, I turned in, like I initiated the turn in too late, right?
Yep. The smoothness was good considering how much you had to turn and how quickly you had to turn. It's just later apex for this one. Like you apex a little bit early and then you're having to fight and wait to get back on throttle. If you apex it earlier, because that next right-hander is flat, is that the case?
No. There's like a little
Am I mixing up my
10%
corners?
break or something.
Oh yeah, I think I'm mixing up my. Am I mixing up my corners?
7th position.
Maybe. Next time we go around it, I'll see. Yeah, I'm mixing up my corners. You're right. But yeah, I still think it is a later.
Yeah. Is it?
Later apex into that turn 7, isn't it? Good.
A lot of stuff going on in my brain right now.
Yeah, no, it's so difficult. And then it doesn't help that I'm also talking to you and giving you 100 other things to think about. Let's say 3 more flying laps.
Good.
Focusing more now on the driving than the techniques, but just use the techniques to your advantage if and when you think you can. I'll be quiet, I'll let you focus for 3 laps.
That puts you 1.3 seconds off the pace. "20 minutes remaining, you've got 20 minutes left."
Well, even earlier there.
Yeah, that was much closer to where it wanted to be.
Yeah.
Just need to start
It
the
just
turning
felt
a
like I
little
had way
earlier.
too many brakes on, but I guess I didn't.
No, you didn't. That's the line, look at you. Ah,
It's a little
it was
bit.
almost the line. I think that is the line though.
Track limits, keep it within the lines.
How was that one?
Pretty good, I think. That was good again in terms of the early turning. Good rotation. Really nice rotation on the entry of that first left-hander. Early turn in, but late apex. Good.
That corner's so slippery.
Mind these track limits, please, Jay.
A little bit too much rotating on the brakes into turn 1 there. Early turn in, late apex. Yeah, that's really close. Really close.
Oh my god, that off turn.
Now delete this lap. You've cut the track.
Turn. It really lost rotation at the very end there.
Yeah, I think you just pushed it to understeer a tiny bit and then had to wait an age.
Minutes left. That's 15 minutes.
Yeah, talk to me. How's it feeling? Obviously,
there's
very
a lot
difficult
going
to
on.
find improvement. Yeah.
I think I feel it.
Mm.
And I can feel the difference that it makes. But yeah, I think it's just at the moment there's like a lot going on in my head, and now all my braking points are wrong, and I'm getting more rotation, and I keep corner cutting all the apexes, and
yeah. Naturally, the driving is always going to suffer. Like we're asking to change so much, and even if we just change one little thing, even if we say, or even just by saying, hold the brake deeper into, or hold the brake until you actually get the rotation.
Yeah.
Even that just means you're braking way more in that initial part of the entry, which means you're overslowing, which means you then can't find the rotation.
Yeah, exactly.
So, it's always like one tiny little change, and then as a result, everything has to change.
Yeah, I can feel it though, and aside from the errors on those laps, the lap time is actually pretty good considering the
100%
age of the tires, because it actually does fall off pretty quickly, at least for me, for the way I'm driving. So
I'd be interested to see, if you go out after this session on a set of fresh tires, whether you're able to make a step. It may take some more time.
It's gonna take a while. Everything's too funky now.
Yeah. Just one final pointer. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Turn 1, that lap that I said you're rotating too much on the brakes. The way to tell that you're rotating too much on the brakes is like this approach to steering, where you have not very much steering on the entry, and then a moment where you have to steer a lot. So not very much steering on the entry, then you have to steer a lot. It's a sign that you're really looking for the rotation on the brakes, because you're not wanting to increase the steering because you're asking so much on the brakes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then now you finally realize, okay, I need to stop braking, and then you actually turn into the corner. So you have two modes of steering through the corner. The first is I'm trying to find the rotation on the brakes, I'm trying to find rotation on the brakes. Second is, okay, I actually need to steer through the corner now.
Yeah,
and that's when
I think that's a problem too. Like with the hairpins too, it's always I start the rotation with the brakes, and then I don't know if it's because I come off too much, or if I'm on too much and I'm understeering, and I try to crank the steering on then right when I'm at that my apex point, or the minimum maximum rotation point, right? I try to crank it on, and it starts understeering.
Yeah. So it's
that is exactly what happens in hairpins. That's a huge problem for me. It just magnified,
so working on trying to get the rotation, more with the steering is going to hopefully help this a little bit. What I'll do, I'll tap up a summary of the main points we've gone over, so you've got them to refer back to, because it's like you say, there's 101 things going on. So to try and remember everything we talked about in the session is not easy. and it's going to take some time for sure. Everything changes as a result of these tiny little changes we're talking about. But from my side, you took on board everything really well. It would have been a lot to ask for, considering how well you're driving already, to get a lap time improvement. From my side, I always like to see a lap time improvement. Like, it's more, of course, more satisfying. But
so that's why I said
main
game
thing
too. I'm like, dude, have patience. You just changed everything you were doing.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But yeah, the main thing from my side is you at least see the potential for it to help, which is hopefully what we've achieved. So
yeah, I appreciate that. I digested it, and I think I'm definitely going to try it out, especially with good tires, and see what I can get and try to adjust my lines and everything to it. The one thing I still think, turn 7-8, maybe I'd like to do another session on this track at some point, but turn 7-8 still, even with the late apex, it, because you could, on the line I took there, I actually did take that proper line. My best lap always has that line where I apex later. I come more to the inside of the track, but I noticed that the faster guys are not doing that, which is why I try it, but I can never carry as much speed when they do it, or I can never carry as much speed when I take that line, so I still don't know. And like I said, it always looks like this, where it's just that mid apex speed. So I'm gonna, I'm gonna try, as I digest these new methods you told me about with more steering and stuff, I'm going to see if that improves that.
10 minutes to go.
See, I think it may well do, because like the thing is, this guy will be getting the rotation from the steering.
Yeah, he's steering much more.
Yeah, and even isn't necessarily needing too much rotation at this point, although he must be rotating. And he's just managed to maintain it on the steering. Yeah.
Earlier, clearly,
This probably is the corner that highlights most the difference in approach, where you're really trying to find the rotation.
And it's high speed, so also like not being as smooth with the steering was probably upsetting the balance too a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll type up a summary. Final question from my side, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
When you've had coaching with like other guys, what have they been working on, and what, like, if you could give me any feedback on what I can do to improve the coaching, I'd of course be all ears. Or just what differences you notice between like how I coach and how these guys obviously are coaching.
It was great, and I think honestly, I think the approach was pretty similar. Actually, like very, very similar format.
Awesome.
And yeah, I think you guys have all been like really patient, really understanding, good listening. I think maybe there's probably been more backstory talk with them, but I think
backstory in terms of like theory, or
no, like racing, like history, like my background with sim racing and everything. But I don't know that more than we discussed was really necessary anyway. So I don't know.
Okay,
if I think of anything else, I'll let you know. But
100%. It's always good to ask the question for people who have had coaching from these guys, right? Because I mean, my goal is actively to never reach the point where I have to charge those kinds of prices, because it's just becomes silly money, doesn't it? But
but you're gonna get.
That doesn't mean I still don't want to aspire
any free time at some point soon.
Yeah, I know. This is kind of the problem already, right? Like, which is a lovely problem to have. I'm very as much coaching as I am, but I need to be able to spend the time to also work on like other parts of the business, because it will be ultimately like the courses and stuff like that will hopefully allow me to keep the coaching as cheap as I can. But that means I need to not coach all day long, because otherwise there's no time. But I'm to be honest, I'm just happy with the direction it's going, and I think I'll get there eventually. I just need to get my priorities.
Yeah, man, that's great.
But I don't want to. I never want to have to charge that much for coaching. Obviously I get why they do it, right? And their time is so. They've made so much money obviously Swellio's made so much money for his course, and he's doing the real world stuff, that his time is just worth that. And it's whoever can afford it. But hopefully my time will be worth that, but I'll still manage to avoid having to charge that. Somehow.
Awesome.
I don't know. It's the plan. It's the plan anyway. But right. It's been a pleasure, man. I'll type up a summary and let me know how it goes. Either way, whether you improve, whether you don't, I want to hear either way.
Okay.
And of course, if you go out and set a blistering lap now, of course, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, even having an optimal to 49.5 is like insane.
Yeah.
That's half a second faster than I've ever done, so I just need to put it together now.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, man. I appreciate you.
Cheers, man. See you around.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. Bye.